Can you hear me now? Can you hear now? Can you hear all the noise now? It's stuck. Okay, great. Thank you. New equipment. Hadn't gotten a chance to test it out yet. But it should be nice and loud. We're like right in front of the speaker. What happened here? I don't know.
Hello, everyone. Are we about ready to start? Ladies, gentlemen, we got anybody coming in? Back, have a seat. All righty. So, welcome, Manatee County citizens. I'm Carol Ann Feltz, and this is a citizen-initiated forum. That's right. That's right. To address the issues we have all experienced with recent weather events that demonstrate the need for properly managed growth, we'd like to begin our meeting with a prayer and a pledge of allegiance to our great nation. If you'll stand, please. I had to practice this, y'all find my notes. To our Creator, we ask that you guide us in our thoughts, our words, and our actions as we seek to understand the world we live in. Let every prayer be answered for those in need and for those that act in hope and faith to meet their needs. We ask that you protect all in your creation, your land, water, and skies, and we the people to be good stewards of those blessings. Amen. Amen. You join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Come on. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of
America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good. Thank you, everyone. Okay. All right. We very much appreciate the residents of our community that have joined together to create this event. Our speakers that will provide education and information, our media coverage that help bring attention to our issues, but most of all, our greatest appreciation goes to you, our audience members of concerned citizens that have chosen to spend your evening with us, united in our cause to be proactive in finding resolution. Give yourselves a hand for being here. Thank you. All righty, so let's... All righty, so our first, you notice we have a large panel of speakers, so they have an allocated amount of time to kind of get you some bullet points on the subject they're talking about, so we're going to try and move it along. And Dalton, are you ready? Okay, so Dalton is one of our local residents and an activist in this, and he's going to talk about tracing the flow of water from Hurricane Debbie.
Give me just 1 second here. Time's up. Will you give me my phone? I'm sorry. There's a lot of information that I'm trying to give you guys, and unfortunately I cannot all remember it because it is a lot of very complex numbers. So give me just 1 second. My phone unfortunately died earlier today. Alright, so I just want to introduce myself and appreciate you guys all coming out. I know I've been trying to do my part on Facebook and try and give you guys some information, but I feel the need to kind of give you guys this little disclaimer. I have a background in stormwater and land development and things like that. I just want to address a few things before we get started. I would like for those of you that's interested in what I have to say, if you find any value in it, I'm trying to get another meeting where we can go over this as a community in a slower, more easy to understand format because it's a lot of information. Unfortunately, there's a lot of numbers, a lot of figures. And so I just want to say that these are my opinions. These are from my experience. These are things that I've seen and I've interpreted from looking at the information in the data. So I do not represent any of my employers that I have worked for, who I presently work for, or anything like that. And not to discourage or disparage or anything like that anybody from Manatee County, but there has been some comments made that Manatee County does not want us to be here tonight, and they do not want us to say what we're trying to say. So with that in mind, I'm going to get into the topic, and I believe there is some pictures, if you don't mind running that for me, that I want to go over really quick. So we're going to talk about how the water flows in Manatee County, and this map right here, it's kind of hard to see, my apologies, but essentially that blue outline there is the entirety of Manatee County. And so the greener areas are the higher areas, and the blue areas are obviously low areas where there's bodies of water. And so if we go over here to this next slide, that's going to plan what I want to talk about. So there are several major feeds into Manatee River, and one of those that we've consistently heard about is Gamble Creek. I want to take some time to focus on Gamble Creek because of all that's happened to it and the surrounding areas. This will apply to many other feeds in Manatee County, as you see here on this board was the topographical map that I showed you. And we're going to focus on Gamble Creek, where the water flows, which is up there where the red arrow is 62. The other area right here that is a little farther down where the green, orange, and yellow is 675. The water flows from the northeast of 62, gathers in a field over there, and flows underneath 675 down into Gamble Creek. Now, a lot of you guys that live on 675, 62 understand that Gamble Creek runs behind a lot of your properties. That is where a lot of the water comes from that feeds into the Manatee. And as it makes its way down where the new Salt Meadows community is, it has been choked. There is nowhere for the water to go. It funnels the water flow, and as it continues down by Salt Meadows, and I want to document this later, we've experienced a lot of problems with the new Salt Meadows community. So as it flows down, it goes underneath 675, underneath Jim Davis Road, underneath Golf Course Road, and then eventually flows out to the Manatee River. Which is, as you can see here, you can kind of follow the track. It's right in red, and then some of the yellow and orange portions. The county has essentially said that they've released 18 billion gallons of water at 13,500 cubic feet a second. So to put that into perspective for you guys, it's a really complex number to understand, but for an acre of land to be filled up with an inch of water, just an inch of water, is 28,000 gallons. Now, if you break down their number breaks down into 6,058,800 gallons a minute. That is roughly 216 and a half feet of water on 1 acre, an entire acre, for the duration of 1 minute of flow at the peak of the dam. Now, granted, it was not obviously that amount for the full time that the gates were open in these plugs. Now that you understand that a little bit, we're going to go into the normal water levels of the dam. According to all of the public information that we've found, the dam level normally stays around 40 feet. To the top of the gates, the gates that they move to control flow, that's about 44 feet, and then to the top of the dam where you can stand and drive over it is about 55 feet. All this is going to play into a role later that you guys will understand. These plugs that they're talking about, there's another picture, okay? It might be hard to see, but there's a bunch of little posts right there in front of the dirt that you can see that's eroded away. Those posts hold what you call the charge, which is essentially a movable barrier that they have to manually pull out of the way. Once that charge is pulled out of the way, water is allowed to flow over a couple of these plugs. Now the plugs that you see here, there's 8 of them in total. 5 is completely gone, 6 is partial, and then 7 is completely gone. As you can see in this picture, off in the field over there is several track marks where the Manatee County actually clawed these out with an excavator. And essentially what that means is that they were trying to alleviate the pressure from blowing these plugs out. These plugs are designed to blow out all 8 plugs at about 44 to 45 feet, which in my opinion, and Manatee County has somewhat confirmed this, is a catastrophic event. That is a emergency event that these plugs, all 8 of them, blow out. So the concrete section that you see here on this picture, the base elevation of it, meaning the concrete section, is at 38 feet. If they did not have that charge in place, these plugs would continuously erode and they wouldn't do their job. Now that you understand that part of the dam, once these plugs are gone, they're gone. There is essentially no putting them back without getting dirt in there, getting earth-moving equipment in there to slope them like they're supposed to be. These plugs are engineered by somebody a lot smarter than me that has taken the time to really research at what levels these plugs need to erode at to relieve pressure on the dam. While these plugs are out of place, what a lot of people have not been told is you're susceptible to what they call an uncontrolled flow or an uncontrolled release of water, which is saying that, like the gates they can open and close. They have a flow. These plugs have no control. Once the level gets up above 38 feet, water starts to flow out of these plugs, and there is no stopping it until it gets back down to 36 feet, which is what we've seen the level at the dam. The gates, according to Manatee County, have a full open of 15 feet. Now, safe open is 11 feet. That's what they're comfortable with allowing these gates to flow at, is 11 feet, essentially full open. There is a Herald Tribune article from 2003. I want you guys, I'm going to give you a little homework. I apologize. There is a Herald Tribune article from 2003. I highly recommend you guys to take a look at that article. There's some very specific numbers that I'm fixing to tell you in there that talk about the same exact style of event that happened this year. And that is to say, they got 12 inches of rain, the lake got up to 42.4 feet, and they had a gate stop. It's the exact same scenario that we just seen here, just this year. Okay, and this was all the way back in 2003. Now, how they rectified the situation, instead of pulling these plugs out, is they put divers in the water, and they had a crane out there, and they opened the gate that was jammed. And so, why? We don't know. Manatee County hasn't really given me an answer on that yet, unfortunately, and I don't know if we're going to get an answer. I suspect that it's because they were trying to get as much flow out of the dam as possible without disturbing these plugs. These plugs have never been used before. These plugs were untested, and when the water flow started to rush against these plugs, they weren't sure if they were going to work or not. These plugs are from the 50s. They are old. And their number that they quote in this article is very specific. It's 18,000 cubic feet a second, which is to say all 3 gates were flowing about 6,000 cubic feet per gate. Now, in this event, this year, they were only flowing at about 4,500, is what I was told. So only about 13.5. That was the figure that they said, and that's why they opened those plugs in order to get the flow of the 3rd gate. The next thing that I want to go over really quick is some things that I've documented in the community. This is some problems with some new developments, such as salt meadows and an existing community, to kind of see how this thing is progressing. We can go to the next slide. This right here, this structure is 2 concrete walls, and there's that thing right there, it's a horseshoe shape in the middle. This is called a weir wall. This is a flood alleviating structure, I would say. Well, that's the term I'm going to use. Essentially, that thing in the middle is called a skimmer, and the walls on the side are to prevent the flow. And essentially, that metal piece does not go all the way to the bottom. There is a gap there, and as you can see, there's kind of like a bowl shape that's at the back, and if you know kind of how your toilet works, there is a P-trap in there. So once the water level on one side gets too high, it flows through the trap and out the other side. It's the same principle here. This example, as you can see in the middle of the page right there, it is flowed out. So it is releasing water uncontrollably into Gamble Creek right now. I've made the developer aware of this. They know about it, and they're supposed to be getting out here to fix it. Can you go to the next one? This right here is another common deformity that we see. This is in Country Creek. At the back of Country Creek, it is the same type of system that is hard to see. That palm tree right there was actually on top. That's about a 6 or an 8 foot hole. That's where the water has overfilled that pond and started to actually dig out the dirt right around that concrete wall. I believe that's the last slide. Right? Okay, cool. So now that we've covered all that, I want to kind of give you guys a little more explanation as far as these systems. Okay? These systems are designed to alleviate the flow of water. They're designed to hold the water in these systems until they can either evaporate, soak in the ground, or the water level becomes too high and they naturally flow out. All of these systems impact all of us. Whether your community flooded or not, they may have affected another community by failing like this. And so I want to ask you guys, if you don't mind, I have a YouTube channel. It's called Parish News Network on YouTube. You're more than welcome to look it up. You can ask me questions. My email's in there. And I'm going to try and get to as many questions as I can at the end of this. Thank you.
All righty, I'm sure that was very informative, and now we know more about how water flows. I was surprised during the event that there were people that said, I didn't know we had a dam. Now you do. All right, so our next speaker is Mark Vandery. Mark Vandery's been around a while here, and one thing we could always count on with Mark, he delivers a very well-crafted, well-said message in our BOCC meetings, and he's always been a very calm and wonderful influence for all of us, and he's been dealing with things at Waterline Road for quite a while now. So, Mr. Vandery, are you ready?
Good evening. My name is Mark Manatee. I grew up in the Sarasota, Manatee area. Went to high school down in Venice. Graduated 72. Can't help that. I'm representing the group called the Waterline Road Preservation Group. About 25 years ago, bought some property out on Waterline Road near the dam, and we've been concerned ever since in dealing with the county about some of the development going on around East County. And we've noticed over the years, an increase of the flooding on Manatee Road, Waterline Road and Dam Road. Two roads are connected. They go right by the southwest corner of Lake Manatee. And I've got a little presentation here. A couple slides ahead there. I want to show you the area that we're talking about. Quite that far. Go back on it. Now, I am a retired professional engineer in the state of Florida, but I just want to say I'm not a hydrology expert. That's not my area of expertise, but I do know a little bit about it. Let's see here. All right, that's going to show a little bit of the area that I'm talking about. It's a lot louder, isn't it?
Better.
Okay. Now, my battery's running out on my pointer here. Here's the dam, here's the lake. This here is Waterline Road. Okay. This is the water plant. That's where drinking waters come from, a lot of the county. This is Dam Road here. This is State Road 64 here. And the red line is tracing a creek called Sand Branch. Now, in the past several weeks, we've experienced an incredible amount of water, like a lot of folks in the county. We got a lot of rain. And like Dalton was saying earlier, this is not the first large amount of rain we've had. We've had similar events in the past. We've had events in 01, 03, where there was a big dam discharge. We've had events in, more recently, 2017 with the hurricane, 2022 with the hurricane, 2004, 2005, when we got, I don't know, a whole bunch of hurricanes. We got a lot of water. Okay. Yeah. But what we've noticed is that even with all that rain back in those days, progressively, as each year passed and more development ensued in the area, there is a correlation with the amount of water that we were getting on Waterline Road and Dam Road as the developments increased. Now, just the last couple of years, near Waterline Road, we've had this area here clear cut. Now, if you notice, this here, that's all wetlands. All up in here, across State Road 64. This road here is Bourneside. It's closed right now for construction because to the east of Bourneside, there's another 5,000 some odd acres being clear cut, if they haven't already been clear cut. That was just done recently, in the past year. This down here, that's all Star Farms area. That's all built out, paved over, roofs. This is all wetlands here. They've encroached on the wetlands. Some of it they've filled in. There's no place for the water to go.
Swift mud don't give a shit no more.
Well, I'm not going to get political about it today here. I'm going to try to focus on what we've experienced in the past 25 years. And we have not seen a whole lot of help from Swift Mud or DEP. Some of our neighbors are not blaming the developers. They're saying, why the county officials and the state officials and the Fed officials allowing this rezoning and development to go on in the first place? Developers are just doing something. The developers are just making money. They're in the business to make money. And they're just doing what they can. They're doing what they're being allowed to do.
Yep.
My opinion, I think both are. Now, what we've seen in this past month with all this rain that we've been getting is water coming from the clear-cut area on this new development. I think they call it Taylor Ranch and East River. That's all clear-cut. And that water's coming over here to where Star Farms is. And it's collecting where the wetlands are supposed to be, getting collected by Sand Branch and sheet flowing, flooding across State Road 64. There's 4 culverts right along in here under State Road 64 just to handle this wetlands and Sand Branch flow. It's all coming onto this property here, which is Palm Grove, which is all clear cut under development. And that's all flowing across Waterline and Dam Road up here. And all these properties here, including the water plant property, are getting flooded out.
Yeah.
All the water's coming down to us. Now, let's pick a few more here. This is just a blow-up of the development down here. It shows the lake. This is the Taylor development and the East River development. So this is all being clear-cut right now as we speak. It's flowing to the west. You can see this is an old topographical map, and it shows the old wetlands here. Just south of 64, and this is all flowing north to the lake and to the river, Manatee River. A lot of it's coming down through Sand Branch. Now this is a photograph from several years ago, aerial. This here is what is now Star Farms, south of State Road 64. they had to dig some of these huge retention ponds and drainage structures to try to handle the storm runoff that they were anticipating. Now, to the east, this is Bourneside Road here, just south of State Road 64. To the east is all green back then, but now it's all clear cut. So all this stuff to the east looks just like it does on the left, looks just like it did on the right. Now it's all big mud hole. And the drainage structures weren't in place and they weren't operating. Same thing with Palm Grove. The drainage structures were dug, but they weren't operating. They collected water and they overflowed and they flooded out the neighborhood. Flooded out Water Line Road, flooded out Dam Road, flooded out all our properties. They weren't handling the water. Water wasn't percolating in the ground like it's supposed to. The trees weren't soaking it up like they're supposed to. A big oak tree can handle, a big live oak can handle tens of thousands of gallons of water. They're not there anymore, they're gone.
Or the land in the ditches. Ditches don't get cleaned out.
Well, that's another thing there too, Rick. The drainage structures, and the engineers say, oh yeah, well, we're gonna develop this land, put in drainage structures, that'll take care of the runoff. Well, first of all, the criteria for the drainage structures are substandard. They're not adequate. Coupled with the fact that once it's installed, it has to be inspected to make sure it's done properly. Then it has to be maintained. Maintained like every several months. You've got to demuck, you've got to de-silt, you've got to take stuff out, you've got to clean it up. There's a lot you have to do to maintaining a drainage structure and retention pond. Same thing with the dam and the lake. The dam was put in the late 60s. From my knowledge of hydrology and dams, which I have worked on a lot, you can't just build it and leave it alone. Over time, that basin silts in. So its capacity on day one was a whole lot more than it is 50 years later today. Okay? You've got to maintain it. You've got to demuck it. You have to dig it out. You have to clean it up. That development going on, those two, south of State Road 64, they're clear cut now. They're all dumping all their storm runoff, dumping right into our reservoir. And not only is it bringing pollutants, but it's bringing in silt, which is reducing the capacity of the reservoir. So what the reservoir was able to hold back in the 60s is tremendously diminished today. I don't know what the plans are, if there's plans for cleaning that up or maintaining that. I haven't seen it. There's something on the docket, the CIPs back in several years from now where they're going to be doing something. Yeah, this is something that I've been presenting to the county commissioners for, I don't know, that's 15 years or so. This is a correlation that we made from the county's water atlas data. Okay? There's the lake. There's the sand branch I've been talking about, State Road 64. Here's that big development going in south of the reservoir. It's all mostly clear cut now. Okay, the black creeks and streams with the crosshatches, those were once waterways that were considered potable, but now they are all impaired waterways. Okay, every one of them, every one of them. These waterways, black with the red hatches, are impaired waterways. Impaired. Right. And we made the correlation as development spread from west to east, the creeks were falling one by one. This is Braden River down here on the bottom. There's still a few feeding the Lake Manatee that are still considered potable waterways. They're not impaired. Gilly Creek is not doing so well right now. But, let me see. can show you a few examples of, this is Sand Branch Creek before the clear cutting occurred on some of the local developments. That's what it looks like after the first clear cutting of the, I think it's Plum Road was the first one that clear cut. This is not a major storm event. That was just a regular Saturday, summer, thunderstorm where you get a couple inches of rain thereabouts. Click on some more of those.
Mark, they can't hear. Can you speak loud?
Okay. All right, so sorry about the presentation and audio here. We didn't have any rehearsal, that's for sure. Okay, so the citizens of East Manatee County area have witnessed an increase in severe flooding over the past 25 years. We've correlating it to the increase in land development. It hasn't been confirmed by any engineering study. However, if confirmed with the engineering models and in-depth analysis, who's at fault and who must fix it? I think the developers, the county, the state, federal officials, all of them. Now, just this week, just a couple days ago, there was a tour given by the county of the dam. It's September 4th. And Deputy County Administrator Evan Pilachowski said that in regards to flooding and overdevelopment in Manatee County, this is what he said. He said, that is certainly something that bears more discussion and study as we move forward. And we should hold them to that statement. Once we dry out, don't forget, because rain's coming again. It's going to happen again. Thank you very much.
Alrighty, we got a little audio visual to take care of there, and thank you, Mark. Our next speaker is going to be Stacy Jesse. Stacy Jesse is the head of the East Manatee Preservation Association. One of the things that they aim to do is exactly what we're doing here now, which is giving us all an education in how things work out there and giving us some resources in how we can make things work better. You ready, girl? All right, then you can do the bunny show. Oh, thanks. Now you want me to keep going. Anyway, I do want to thank y'all for being here. How many of you are from Parish? Let's hear Twin Rivers hands. Hold on. Twin Rivers hands. Twin Rivers. I'm going to call out a subdivision. Raise your hands. Good. Harrison Ranch. There you go. Give me another one. Chelsea Oaks. Ancient Oaks. Borderline Road. How about Mayaca? Mayaca. Woo! Mayaca representing. Okay. Now are you ready?
Can you ask about Summerfield, Lakewood Ranch?
Summerfield, Lakewood Ranch people. All right, in the front row. Thank you. We share a lot in common now. You see that this is pervasive over a majority of this end of the county. And did we bring anybody in from the city of Bradenton? There y'all go. See? We have a great common factor here, don't we? So I think that means that we have a great common problem that we need to resolve. And Stacy is going to give you some resources for that.
Hi, thanks for your patience. I'm really loud. I don't even need this microphone. So I promise you'll be able to hear me in the back. I am Stacy Jesse, and I'm one of the co-founders of East Manatee Preservation Association. We are a nonprofit, and our mission is to help the community, to make you aware of what's going on, to preserve all that makes Old Florida great, and to really advocate on behalf of East County residents with the rest of Manatee County. One of the first things, I'm just going to go through a list of resources. We do have someone here. I know many of you, it's our first 24 hours without real rain. You should be out there on your property because it's almost kind of dry right now. But those of you who need immediate assistance and resources because of the flooding that's just not stopping, there is a disaster recovery center at Lakewood Ranch Library. FEMA is there, the Small Business Administration. There are emergency response teams. They will help you right there fill out your FEMA application so you don't mess it up. And they have a representative from that disaster response center that is here today. Mikhail, would you want to come up and just tell us about what you're doing? He will be in the back foyer for a little bit longer, and we have a bunch of pamphlets in the back right. If you need immediate assistance, go out there and speak to him. You won't hurt my feelings.
Good afternoon, everybody. So first of all, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you all. As Stacy mentioned, my name is Mikhail Scott. I'm a representative of the State Emergency Response Team with the Division of Emergency Management. First of all, I want to take a quick survey of hands. How many folks are here are Manatee County residents? All right, so I'm talking to the right people, right? All right, so if any of you all, number 2 question, how many people had some kind of direct damage from Hurricane Debbie to your homes or to your business?
Not the Debbie, the dam.
Okay, no, Hurricane Debbie, specifically Hurricane Debbie damage to your home or to your business, all right? So these folks, and for the ones that don't have your hand up, listen in for a friend. As we mentioned, at the Lakewood Ranch Library, we have a disaster recovery center where FEMA and the SBA are present on site from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Saturday. And what does that mean for you all? I know a lot of people maybe have never experienced these type of issues before with damage to your home related to a natural disaster. But what you can find on site there are going to be FEMA representatives that are going to be able to help you with any type of damage claims that you might have for those individuals that are homeowners, renters. That's going to be a great opportunity for you all to go and speak with the representative from FEMA to be able to help you better understand what your resources look like and what your options are for getting you some support. Also, for those of you that might be business owners, the SBA is also on site and is going to be able to provide you with a lot of great information that you can get to address any business damages that you might have had. And that's going to be an opportunity also for homeowners that might not have gotten all the resources they need from FEMA or might be looking to take out a very small interest loan from the SBA to address some of the major damages immediately to your home. It's going to be a great chance for you to get some information on that as well. So we really are encouraging anybody that was impacted, please make sure you spread the awareness to your families and friends because these centers are open while they are being utilized. So if they're underutilized and people are sitting at home that need this help, they go away. So I want to encourage you all to go as soon as you can, as quickly as possible. Today might not be the best day because they're going to close at 7 p.m. But starting Monday of next week, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., the site is going to be open. And anybody that needs the assistance, please come out to get some information that can help you in your situation. One last thing I want to also make you aware of is the Activate Hope program. This is a part of Hope Florida under the Department of Children and Families. This is an initiative that Governor DeSantis' wife, Casey DeSantis, has recently launched, and is also providing unmet needs resources for folks that have already gone to FEMA, might have already gone to your insurance, but you still need some assistance with some other things like food resources, utility resources, cleaning up your home. These are the types of things that you'll be able to get through going through Hope Florida. So I think also if you were to take your phone out right now and scan that QR code that's on the screen, it's going to open you up to an assessment that you can take. It's very easy to fill out. That's going to put you online to get some additional resources as well. So just want to make sure that we encourage you guys, tell your families, tell your friends, and stay safe. Thank you all.
Amen. Thank you.
We really appreciate you coming out here on such short notice and sharing that information. And yeah, in the back table on the right, that Activate Hope information is there, as well as some of the Disaster Response Center brochures that I took from them yesterday when I was there. So I only made 100 of these, and there's a lot more than 100 of you there. So I'm just kind of gonna go through this really fast. Most of the information is here, but my goal is to help you connected where you need to be connected. If you want more information about whether your property was in a floodplain, why it's flooding, I can help you find those maps, and I'll kind of show you how all those websites work. If you want to fight the county and know how to go and speak at those meetings, we can help you with that. There's not going to be a lot of time at the end for question and answers, but the email address for East Manatee Preservation is on this flyer. Contact me there. If you want a specific person that spoke today, I will get you in touch with that person. So I can kind of act as that resource if you want specific information you hear today. So yeah, if you have flooding, if you need help now, the two primary things you want are Manatee County's 311. That is kind of where they streamline their services. If the county needs to give you information, you call 311, or you go to their app, or you can go to their website. They have a storm update center. So if it starts flooding again and you need sandbags, it says where those sandbags are. If you need to clear out debris, whatever it is you need to do that has to do with the county, you can get that information there. And they have extended hours. I think they'll answer now until like 11 o'clock at night. So you start flooding at 10 o'clock at night, give them a call, and hopefully they will point you in the right direction. You've just heard from the Disaster Relief Center. Lakewood Ranch Library, that entire second floor, they've got this command center set up there. So if you need help, please go ahead there when they're open. Go ahead to the next slide. Dalton touched on this. Mark did a much better job. How does the water flow? We haven't had rain like this in a while, and so we're seeing that the rain will find, water will find a way. So if you want to know more about how that water works, you're hearing watersheds, drainage basins, all these terms. The Manatee County Water Atlas that's done by the University of South Florida is a phenomenal resource. It will define those terminology. It'll tell you about water quality. It will talk about those impaired waterways that Mark was talking about. It'll give you a lot of that information. There's also the Southwest Florida Water Management District. We call it SWIFMUD. It's not a perfect acronym, but that is SWIFMUD. There are 5 water districts across the state of Florida, and that is ours. It's that purple one. No, go back there. It's that purple one right there. And they are in charge of water management plans. They do the investigations. They provide the permitting. So if you think that Salt Meadows or someone, if their runoff is what's causing you to flood and that's never flooded before, it is SWIFMUD who should be doing that investigation. You can pull their permits. They have to get permission to build the retention and their detention ponds and all of that. And you can actually go on their website. I took a screenshot. Those green areas all were required a permit. And you can pull up the permit, see what they were allowed to do. And then if you need someone to help you read that, then you can talk to someone and say, actually, like Dalton was saying, that retention pond did not do as it was supposed to. It's clearly not to code, and figure out what's going wrong, why those surrounding communities maybe are causing an issue. Next page there. They also have incredible floodplain maps. This is a map, you can see, where's the pointer? 675 is the road kind of that goes in the center. You can see curving right through all of the yellow. There you go, right there. And you can see the yellow is all floodplain, and then the red below it are new development areas. So a lot of people don't know if they're new to this area that, hey, these new developments are built in floodplains. Yes, they're trying to lift you up, but the water still has to go somewhere. So to know who's in a floodplain, I think that kind of explains a lot. And then FEMA, in addition to providing disaster relief, they're also the ones that affect our flood insurance, and they come up with flood maps. One of the interesting things that's been pointed out by a lot of community members is some of those maps haven't been updated since 2014. The one I pulled up here, it shows that it was last revised in 2021, but the topography changes. The elevation is changing as all these new subdivisions are building up a lot higher. And we're not seeing that these updates are happening in real time. So when the county has to decide, is this project gonna have a negative impact on surrounding communities? If they don't have new data, how are they gonna know what's actually gonna impact the properties and the lives of the people already there? So you can see, again, I mean, we have all of that flood AE and flood zone A are the teal color, and then you have a regulatory floodway, and Claire, can you show 675? I think it is running. That is 675 up there, and that's that new community. I think that's where like North River Animal Hospital is, right kind of in the center, near the top there. So understanding the topography, the flood areas, if you want that, you can find that by looking here. Next. And then finally, if you want to know what's coming next in your backyard, a lot of us are really concerned about the proposed Pope Ranch project. We'll be posting about this all weekend on East Manatee Preservation's Facebook page. They're proposing, 440 homes right there, just north of the intersection of Rye and Rutland. The timing seems a little tone deaf, if you ask me. Obviously, we are not prepared for these kinds of rains. We've got some amazing community members and resources in the audience. Sean up here is one of them. He lives in Hillsborough. Sean, wave up here. He knows a lot about what's happening, but Sean made a really good point to me. He said, you know, they keep calling this a 100-year or a 300-year event, and it's unprecedented. But he said, you know what? Hurricane Andrew in the 90s was unprecedented. That Category 5 storm that was catastrophic. And you know what they did from this unprecedented storm that was a 500-year planning event? They changed the building codes. They changed the way we developed based on an unprecedented storm. They didn't say, it won't happen again. Debbie needs to set the bar. It's going to raise the bar. We're going to say, hey, we have to do better. We have to build stormwater, right? We have to plan our stormwater. We have to approve new development, knowing how they are going to impact the properties and the people that are already there. This is ruining lives and businesses every day right now. So if you want to know more, you're welcome to ask me, but there is a website and I created a tiny URL. You can see every new development property that's been approved or might be approved. They're all there in red. Then if you click one, you zoom in on Poke Ranch there, and it says ACA Deep Link. That will give you every single document that developer or builder has had to submit to the county. Every piece of correspondence with the county, every environmental report, traffic report, site plan. You can see all of it. So some of the maintenance records, if it has to do with stormwater, you can find in the ERP reports. You won't find most of those. You can see the construction plans. You can see how big the sewage and the drainage facilities are going to be, the pipes, but not necessarily the maintenance. And these are primarily for new things that are being developed. Right, oh yeah, and that would be a lot of that Swift mud. Once you get to that Acela portal, you're gonna wanna click where it says record info, and then those two arrows where it says attachments. And this one has over 8 pages of attachments. In general, I go to like the last page, and you're looking for something that says site plan. So I clicked site plan, and then you'll see on, if you have one of these, it shows, but Claire, go to the next slide. You've got this huge PDF, it takes forever to download, and that's the cover page. And then go to the next one. And if you zoom in on all the fine print, it starts to talk about how big these are, how much wetlands impact there's going to be. There's lots of information there. And then go to the next page. And then if you keep going through all the other documents that the developer has submitted, you're gonna see all of that red where Pope Ranch is. Those are flood zones A, AE, and DE. Those are high-risk flood zones that they are choosing to build or consider building 440 homes into. But it's okay, because you know what? They're just gonna raise that elevation. So if you live next to them, you should be concerned. It would be my opinion that you should be concerned. And again, this other one just shows everything that's going on next to it. So this is all information that is at our fingertips if you know how to access it. And then I'm not going to go over it, but if you want to speak at a Board of County Commission meeting, they're generally Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9 a.m. Most of us have jobs and lives, but you can call in now. You can put that thing on in the background on YouTube, and when they get to your item, call in and say something. And finally, we're here to help. You've got my email address there. You can find me on Facebook and message me, or on Instagram. We're just like 4 of us on there that are actively responding, but we've been doing this for a couple years, and we are here to help, so don't be afraid to reach out if you're trying to figure it out or have questions. Thank you.
I certainly hope that everyone will start taking, how long did we ask for calling comments? You know how many people called in on the land use meeting last week? Okay, Charlene. No, oh, that was a 0. Right. And that was probably because we didn't know, right? You kind of have to watch these things because they did approve it. I actually was surprised that they got it started so soon after the approval. I thought that would take, a week or 2 or a couple of extra weeks to do. But let's hear those calling comments coming in from people. And our next guest is Mr. Richard Green. I'm going to move us along here because we're a little behind.
It's stuck on the corner behind Carol.
Carol, the cord is stuck.
It's stuck on the corner down there. There you go.
All right, so how are you all doing this evening? Thanks for coming out. I am Richard Green. I am an attorney. I'm an environmental litigator. So all the things that Stacey just talked about, that's my world. I do a lot of permitting challenges. The issues about Swift Mud, the Water Management District, or FDEP at the state level, that's where I spend my day. And so it's very difficult to follow Swift Mud or follow the DEP and then say, hey guys, something's wrong with the pond or whatnot. Where you can actually make a difference is before that permit is issued. So you will get notifications if you ask for them. You can go online to Swift Mud, you can go online to DEP, you can be notified of anything that happens in your area. But if you submit a comment before the permit is issued, that's where they take a new look at things. Understand something. And I'm going to get to my presentation, I promise. Understand something. These people are there to do a job. They are not the top level experts in their field across the world. They are hired to work for the government to do a job. And their job is this much of this project. They check the box, it goes to somebody else. If there's a problem, you have to speak up before it gets through the machine. Okay, now, so let me go to my thing. I want to say that. So I have been asked to talk to you about land use, not environmental litigation, which is okay. I do some of the land use too. But my name is Richard Green, attorney. I already said that, so I'm not going to say it again. But this title, From Cow Pasture to Condo, is Carol's idea, and I'm stealing it because it's awesome. But she's basically asking me, look, how does a piece of ag land turn into a commercial development, turn into a Home Depot, turn into a condominium? How do we go from that point to that point? And so I'm going to give you a very high level. I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty of specifically Manatee County Planning Commission. I'm going to give you a very high level so that you have an understanding of the statutory framework, have an understanding of what the counties are doing, so that if you do want to object to something, or you do want to talk to your county commissioner, or you do want to show up at a meeting, you have an idea of what's important to the discussion, and you don't just come in and say things like, I don't like the idea of more houses, even though I just moved in last year. So we need to have better firepower if you want to stop something. For example, right out the back of my neighborhood, they wanted to put a massive new Home Depot, and there's nothing there but residential homes. And so we needed the right firepower to go and stop that project from happening, and we just found out today that that project is not happening. So I'm really happy about it. Okay, land use is boring. It's all about the process, and the process is laid out in statute. You cannot deviate from it. It is what it is, okay? So it's governed by a combination of state, you don't care about that, regional, you don't really care about that, and local, you care about that. That's the stuff that really matters to you, okay? We're gonna talk about the comprehensive plan quickly. The comp plan, think of the United States Constitution. It is a general framework for how everything else flows, okay? Then we have zoning laws, which is a bad word, or ordinances is a better term. Those are like the statutes that implement the Constitution, all right? And if you've done anything in the world on TikTok or Facebook or at all, and you have these, armchair lawyers and whatnot who talk about things, you at least know all the statutes have to follow what? The Constitution. Zoning ordinances have to follow what? The comprehensive plan. From there, you get your plats and your subdivisions and your site plans and your building and construction permits. Okay, all that stuff comes later. We're going to focus on the top two. Okay, so comprehensive land use plan. All right, I put a statute up there, but comp plan comes from chapter 163. How many of you all are familiar with the wetland issue here in Manatee County where they changed the comp plan to remove the buffer? How many of y'all are familiar with that? Okay. That's this. That's the comp plan. Okay? And the state legislature had an idea that if you don't like the comp, or if a developer doesn't like the comp plan, they just sue the county. make the county spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then the county capitulates, changes the comp plan, and the developer goes and builds the thing. And the state was like, you know, those laws, those situations are bad. It's costing the taxpayers a ton of money. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to change Chapter 163, and we're going to add an attorney's fee provision to it. That's going to scare everybody away. Well, what happened almost immediately is Manatee County changed their comp plan, removed the wetland buffer, and someone sued. And then they found out, in a matter of 4 months, the county spent $250,000 on people like me. And that individual had to drop their lawsuit on that comp plan challenge. So if you have an issue, or you hear comp plan, or you're thinking about comp plan, or whatever, Google Chapter 163. It's not that long of a statute comparatively, and give it a look. But I wanted to read a quote from 163.3177. And it says that comprehensive plans, this is the goal of a comprehensive plan, to provide the principles, guidelines, standards, and strategies for the orderly and balanced future economic, social, physical, environmental, and physical development of the area that reflects community commitments to implement the plan and its elements. Community, okay? That's the point of the comp plan. So, how do we go from a comp plan to zoning? How do those things, marry one another? So, the comp plan, every jurisdiction has to have one, obviously, and every jurisdiction has to have a zoning map. It's important. Just like you can find everything else that Stacey Jesse told you about, the zoning map is at your fingertips, okay? And it identifies the specific areas that, commercial, industrial, residential density, all of those things. Changes to those maps, those zoning maps, must be consistent with the comp plan. Great. I'm not going to read the Manatee County comp plan. It's probably hundreds of pages. That's fair. But they have this future land use map. You can Google this. You can go on the Manatee County's website and you can pull up the future land use map. The future land use map is the comp plan's zoning map. So, if you have a zoning designation for your across the street vacant piece of land, and you're wondering what's it zoned for, and what could it be zoned for, that's on this document. And it is an interactive document. You can click on it, and it will tell you all you need to know. So if the zoning for the particular area is, let's say, ag, a cow pasture, okay, and it's maybe has the potential to be Res 1, then any other request to change that zoning to something other than one of those two things is inconsistent with that. And they can't just change the zoning. They have to change that. That is not as simple. I want you to notice something. You notice that, well, it's probably hard to see from way in there, but it's kind of a reddish line, somewhat in the middle, a little bit to the right. And it's a straight line going up, jogs a little to the left, and you see that line? How everything to the right of it is light green? You know what that light green color means? Yell it out. It means ag. Not commercial, not industrial, not residential. It means ag. And if you zoom in on that, which I haven't done, I just want to give you a general idea. But if you're thinking to yourself, well, what are they doing out there out east? How do they get anything done? How do they build anything out there? Well, all of it has to be consistent with the character of that community. Meaning, you don't build a condo on it, at least not yet. But if I were to roll this back 20 years, you see that little yellow spot that sticks out towards the south there? That wouldn't have been there.
A year ago, it wouldn't have been there.
Dude, that's fair. That's a fair statement.
Very fair.
So, what have we seen and what is possible? I want you to understand something. This document, your Boulder County Commission, your communities, they change over time. To believe that this is stagnant is silly. That's not the case. There's always going to be a push to turn that green to yellow, and from yellow to red, to develop. Okay? But as of right now, sitting here right here today, zoning has to be in line with the future land use map. Okay, so let's pretend that you have a cow pasture, okay, and you're wondering how in the world does it turn into
Solar panels.
well, that would still be ag, but to a condominium. The first thing you need to understand is we often talk about developers, or and we think of developers as like medallion homes and whatnot. Probably shouldn't think of it that way. Those are actually rather rare. You should think of yourself as an investor who comes by and says, that looks like a good place for a condominium. And they will pay more money than that property is worth to purchase it because they think they can do something with it later. But they purchase it as agricultural land. They do not purchase it as something else. Now, some people are smarter than that oftentimes. They're a little bit more cautious. And they will enter into a contract to buy the land, but the closing date's about 18 months away, and they will go and see if they can change that zoning to what they want it to be before they actually buy it. But in my experience, about 8 times out of 10, 9 times out of 10, an investor goes in, buys the land, and then proverbially puts it in their back pocket and just waits. But they buy it as ag land. So if it's ag, if they don't want it to be ag, what do? And they have to file, when they're ready, they have to file a request to rezone the property. An application, again, this is high level, okay? They have to have an application, they put all these things together, and they submit it to the county staff. They do not go directly to a hearing, because the county has to look and see, first of all, can we even do this? Is this even something that can be approved? And again, checking boxes. They're not holding an in-depth hearing. They're not calling you. They're not emailing you. They're just looking at the documentation and seeing, does it work? Okay? And then the county staff is going to come up with a proposal. Now, in the county here, we have a planning commission. Not going to go into the details of it. But basically, the planning commission is to the next level after the staff review to see, they're supposed to, see if the request is consistent with the comp plan. And if they say it's consistent with the comp plan, most of the time, Bruce may check me on this, but I would say you got greater than a 90% chance the county commission is going to roll with that decision, even if it's blatantly wrong. But if the planning commission says it, that is their singular role, is to make that determination. So now, you have that determination, they're like, look, we can actually do this, possibly, maybe you have to make some changes, but it's possible. Then is when you drive by, you see the big yellow signs on the side of the road, the public hearing notices, you have to have a public hearing. That's your planning commission, that's your BOCC, okay? They have to hold these public hearings, they have to notify you, sort of. They have to put a sign out front that you may hopefully drive by and see it, and that's your notification, okay? And then the Board of County Commission ultimately, at the end of the day, makes a decision. Okay, so consideration. See all that? Awesome. Considerations for rezoning. What's the staff looking at? What do they care about? Why are you changing it? Well, we want to go from a nice cow pasture and we want to build a Home Depot. Why do you want to build a Home Depot? Well, there's a lot of people out there now, they have home. Why the change? They have to describe what they're doing. And here's the fun part, the impact of the end development on the surrounding area, increase in traffic, the effect on utilities, that type of thing. Are you going to triple, quadruple, quintuple the amount of traffic going onto a 2-lane road? We can't actually bear that. Oh, well, we'll help you build a new road. Oh, okay, great. No, but that's the negotiation on that piece. Do we have enough of the water pipes? Are they large enough? That type of thing. For whatever your rezoning issue is. And then you have, interestingly enough, in the Chapter 163, a request to rezone requires a legitimate public purpose. Thank you, lawyers, for intentionally being vague. That helps the rezone process along. If you can come up with any reason whatsoever that people might like it, there's your legitimate public purpose. Okay, and then neighbors. Concern of the neighbors. I think that's why they asked me to talk to you all. Because you are a major consideration for rezone. If you don't say anything, I guess it's a good idea, is the idea. So who holds the power? may be speaking out of pocket here, but I feel like you all do, given what happened in the primary. But technically speaking, they do. The Board of County Commission does, okay? They're the ones with the last say. But I'm gonna give you a little secret. This is backed up by statute and backed up by law. There is no requirement to rezone. There is no obligation to change the comp plan. The BOCC, they consider the application against the considerations that I talked about previously. But you have no right to use the property in a way that hasn't already been established. That's what I'm basically trying to get across. So, is there a right to rezone? Can the BOC deny your request? Yes, they can. Do it all the time in other jurisdictions. But it does happen. Who did I get? Who did I get over here? Does that trigger a lawsuit? Maybe. On what grounds? Bert J. Harris is what they asked me about, but I hear that term thrown around a lot. And I will tell you, my firm, there are people in it that are experts on it. I called them, I said, look, I need a presentation on Bert J. Harris. Like, I know a little bit about it, but everyone's really concerned about it. And I keep hearing people just throw it around a lot. They sent me a presentation, they talked to me about it, and I was surprised to find out just how crystal clear the law is on Bert J. Harris. So let's talk about it. Now remember, investor buys ag land, goes to rezone it, they deny it. He sues under Bert J. Harris, all right? Chapter 170, it's even shorter than 163. It's very, very short. Very easy, actually easy to read. This is a good job by the legislature. And it applies to italicized and underlined existing uses of property. Existing uses of property. There's a case. It's not even that old. That's like a baby case in my world. It's 6 years old. And they laid out, hey, what does existing use mean? It's right there in the statute. Let's talk about it. Now, the first part, B1, it's whatever the property is being used for now. Okay, so the cow pasture is being used for cow pasture. So I want to rezone and put a Home Depot on it. That's not a cow pasture, so you can't go there. The second one is where I had questions for people, and I know what I would do if I was a lawyer and I wanted to challenge it, is I would go right to number 2. Such reasonably foreseeable, non-speculative, that seems like a contradiction. Reasonably foreseeable, but non-speculative. Land uses which are suitable for the subject real property. But here's where they told me to pay attention. This is where the lawyers and the judges get hung up. And compatible with adjacent land uses, and which have created an existing fair market value. So, in my situation that I was paying attention to, and I invited everybody to, that we stopped from happening, we had an area that used to be a farm. It was a Lakewood Ranch, short of Manatee. They redeveloped the whole idea, and they changed it from ag, straight ag, to various types of mixed use and whatnot. But you had specific residential areas, specific commercial areas. It was very planned meticulously. And they left some ag spaces in the area. Well, one of the pieces of land that was being looked at was a piece of ag land. And surrounding it was all residential, one. So you had like, R4. So you had a bunch of houses, really little small area, okay? Nothing but homes. And then right in the middle of it, on a 2-lane Lorraine Road, they want to stick Home Depot. Okay? Could they sue under Bert J. Harris if that was denied, which they already gave it up, but if they had gone through the whole process and were denied, could they sue? The answer is no, because there's no compatible use next to it. And you can't use residential homes to give you a fair market value for a commercial piece of property. That's the confusion. People, they threaten Bert J. Harris, and maybe county commissions fall for it, because again, they don't like to spend your money in litigation. But understand, Bert J. Harris is not about what we could do with the property. Not at all. It's all about what the existing use is. And the whole point of Bert J. Harris is this last line. To provide potential relief when government does something. Not when you do something. When government does something. So, we had some Bradenton people here. Is there anyone from Anna Maria Island? Drove all the way out here? No. So on Anna Maria, about 10 years ago. Anna Marie decided we're done we're not doing Airbnb thing. We don't want short-term day rentals. We got rid of it. So they changed it to where you could not do that anymore. You had to have a very specific, like they really minimized what you could do in terms of short-term rental. Well, a bunch of people already had homes out there, and here came the Bert J. Harris claims. And Anna Maria ponied up all the money in the world to pay all of those claims because they changed the way things were done. So, in our situation, our hypothetical, the hypothetical where the investor bought the land, well, no, the government didn't do anything. So, no, Bert J. Harris does not apply. Takeaways. What? There we go. So, takeaways. Neighboring property owners in public are essential to this process. If you hear something and you want to say something, do so. The Board of County Commission is an elected body. They work for you. They should listen to you. Don't make me bring Carol up here. She'll give you her lecture. Opposition to a project must be present at a public hearing. If you're not there, they will move on from you. Now, I say this, and I know there's like a quasi-judicial thing going on. If you can't actually talk to them, send them an email, send them a message, let them know there's opposition to what's going on. But also be willing to talk to the owner. One of the reasons why we got to Home Depot before they went forward was because we were talking to them. And they personally sent us a message saying, hey, we're going to pull the project, we're not going to go forward with it. So I thought that was really good. So be willing to talk to the owner. You can't ask me questions. This changed. So, but thank you. It was fun. Thanks for coming out.
I'm that girl, but now that Richard has you all pumped up to fight, we do have some real things that you can do now. Carol, you're supposed to be up here talking while I get the thing up. We do have someone up here. Warren Brittingham has helped fight county government. He's helped fight Manatee County government. If you want to help us make a difference to stop this overdevelopment that is part of the problem that is mitigating our flooding issues, then we do have a petition that you can be part of, and he is going to come up here and talk about that now. So Warren, coming up here.
I don't have nearly as exciting stuff to put up there for you guys, so a little nervous because when I'm at a church, I'm usually confessing. But what we did was basically take, we have everybody out here that has an issue or a concern. How do we get that to the commission?
Micah, put the mic on your chin.
Thank you. Better? All right, so this is the website. It's pretty simple, manateeflooding.org.
Eat the mic.
How much closer do you want it? All right, everybody. Ready? Okay, so the website is manateeflooding.org. The only thing that's on there right now is just the petition. When you fill it out, there's a couple of questions on there that'll spark other boxes to open up. You can upload pictures, the whole 9 yards. When we're done with gathering all the petitions, we're going to make sure that the county commission and Swift Mud gets them all. So, multiple people, same house, everybody can do a petition. We got some problems with the mic up here, obviously. I don't really have anything else. That's it. If there's somebody that doesn't want to use the internet, you can download the petition at the top, and it's got a QR code on there that'll direct them back to it, or they can fill it out, and the email address is on there for them to send it to.
And it's here. It's on your packets, Richard.
It's on your packets, too. Mike, close. All right, I think that's it for me. So, all right.
we know we've got a lot of information to cover, but we've got some people out in the lobby with FEMA. You've got Ward out there with the petitions, so we've given you kind of an action plan. Stacy's got a handout with a bunch of resources on it. Some of the takeaways that we want you to keep in mind is that I think we've tried to get the point to you. You have to understand the process, you have to keep track of the process, and you have to be part of the process. Everybody's going like this. I want to see calling comments in the next BOCC meeting. Okay. Next person that we're going to have talking is Michael Barfield. And this is the master of the public records request. That's how we'll keep that intro. How's that? So Mr. Barfield's going to tell us a little bit about how we can get the information from the county that is public record that we should probably have on the website anyway.
Thank you, Carol, and thank you all for being here. It's really great to see community participation like this for something that's vital to you and your lives daily. And I really appreciate this turnout this evening for your time. My name is Michael Barfield. I'm the Director of Public Access with the Florida Center for Government Accountability. We are a nonprofit organization, and we publish the Florida Trident. It's an online news outlet, and I'm an investigative reporter for the Florida Trident with my other hat that I wear. So I have about 35 years of experience in obtaining access to public records from governmental agencies all across the state of Florida and even outside the state of Florida. And lately I've been focusing here on what is happening in our community. I live in Sarasota and have lived in this area 35 years, initially in Manatee County. So the access to public records plays a vital role in informing the citizens of their community to be able to find out what's going on so you can make decisions. And I can see from the crowd tonight and your reactions to some of the speakers that you have doubts about what your government has been up to. You have doubts about whether they've been transparent with you. And one of the ways that you as citizens can exercise your power to hold government accountable is getting that information from public records that belong to who? The public. That's why they call it public records. So there's a QR code that is up here that has a link to the Government in the Sunshine Manual that's published annually. It's a vital resource that any citizen can use. It breaks it down into layman's terms about what is a public record, how you can get access to public records, and court decisions that back up your right to get access to public records. You do not have to have a reason why. You don't even have to give your name. You can make a request anonymously through a Gmail account or in person at any time without any explanation whatsoever. That is your right. It is a constitutional right in Florida. Florida was the first state in the Union to pass the right to know law as a constitutional right. So exercise that right. If you don't exercise it, it will, well, we can see the results of what have happened when transparency and accountability go in a different direction because of special interests. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the records that I've obtained recently as yesterday, and I should have a new article out about this time next week, maybe as early as Friday or the following Monday. But what I have learned is some of the things that Mark talked about and Dalton talked about not so much about the dam. We already know a lot about what has caused the flooding from the dam downstream, but also what's going on with regular occurrences of flooding in your communities, not associated with Tropical Storm or Hurricane Debbie, but it's happening on any given afternoon during the rainy season. And I know many of you have felt that. So I've seen some of the videos. I've been out taking videos myself and watching it. So what I've learned is that the watershed plans, and there are more than a dozen watershed plans in Manatee County. And they all have different names associated with their communities or the watershed basin in which they are, like Gamble Creek or Mill Creek and Braden River. And it's each one of those basins, the water flows through it a particular way. And guess what? When is the last time that they did any studies of how water flows through those watersheds? 1980s. 1980s. Yes, a good question. Well, it's legal because the county commission has not funded studies to conduct watershed management plans. There's a few. There's the only one that's the most recent one is 2015, and that was in Mill Creek. And even that was somewhat outdated at the time they even did that study. So the county stormwater engineer, Tom Gerstenberger, is on record saying that when a development project comes up for approval, it is not based in reality. The stormwater calculations that they are using, that the engineer or the developer uses to sign off on the project that is not going to have any adverse effects on adjoining or adjacent properties, is not based in reality. Why? Because they're using maps from the 1980s. They know this. They've known it for some time. And has the county updated the maps? No. They talk about how they're planning on updating the maps, and they're waiting on SwiftMud to give them feedback on some of the plans that they have submitted. So this is something that I'm going to focus on because I believe that it is very vital information about what is causing the flooding on an ongoing basis. If you don't know how water is flowing before you authorize a development, why would you authorize a development? The other problem Mark talked about is sheet flows from these development projects. Palm Grove near Waterline Road is a very good example, but it is going on elsewhere in the county as well. And guess what? I have the records that I just obtained yesterday. The county knows about that. They know it's a problem. They know when like Palm Grove, when the water runs off, it collects the sediment and dirt that they are disturbing from the wetlands that used to be there before they clear cut it. Where does that sediment go when a rain comes? It washes down to the ditches and culverts and fills them mostly with clayey material. Florida and Manatee County in particular has very poor drainage. USDA site on soils in Florida, we don't have very good permeability in soils. So the further you dig, when they dig out their retention ponds and dig it deep, you're going to get clayey material down there that's even less permeable than the topsoil. And the result is when they stack it up on top, that clayey material is going to run off into the ditches and culverts, and it's constricting the ability of water flow even further. So does the county know about that? Yes, the records I've obtained do show that they know that as much as up to 40% of the ditches and culverts around adjacent development has been blocked by up to a 40% factor. So that reduces their stormwater flow that is already out of touch reality by a factor of 1980s when if you took a map and did a Google time lapse of what existed in the 80s out there where they're building, you would see it for yourself. A picture tells 1,000 words. So you have the problem with the maps not being updated. You have the problems with the projects when they do their stormwater calculations, they're not taking into account how it's going to affect the flow of water to adjoining properties. And then the third thing is the sediment that is running off from those projects that is restricting the flow of water in the ditches and culverts. the county could do something about it. When they know that a development project like Palm Grove or others around the county are creating unintended effects, they could put a stop work order in and say, let's figure it out. Before we continue building, let's figure it out. That's an option that they can do. But I want to end with this thing that is most important. I really am so proud of Manatee County citizens for educating themselves in the past few years about what is going on in their community. And it showed in the last election. You guys deserve that credit because you made a change. Don't forget, just like Richard said, you have the power. You have the power. Exercise it and stay informed. Thank you.
Thank you. So much information there. If you ever need help getting public records, do find that email address on their website. I've asked him for help before. I'm so glad we have so many people in here with so much information. Next up, we have the Executive Director of Suncoast Waterkeeper, Dr. Abby Turna. She led our fight against the wetland buffer reductions, and she's going to talk to us today about why we need these wetlands, especially more than ever with flooding that's happening.
Thank you. Hi. So, I'm Abby. Thank you so much for inviting me to be here. Thank you for your applause. I'm a wetland scientist, and so what I'm going to tell you today is really with the lens of wetlands ecology. So I like to think about it as basically wetland hydrology 101, okay? So I studied headwater wetlands and streams in graduate school, and one thing that was very hammered in was that headwater streams and wetlands are the most critical components of the watershed because they drain up to 70% of the watershed. What does that mean? All right, well, let's take a watershed, for instance. A watershed. Name a watershed, anybody. Braden River. Okay, Braden River, great. Why is the Braden River watershed named the Braden River watershed? Because all the water and the land in the watershed is going to drain to the Braden River. You got it, the Braden River. Okay, so the headwaters of the Braden River are the most important aspect of making sure that the downstream portion of the Braden River stays constrained within its boundaries. If we develop rapidly on these headwaters, 70% of the drainage of that watershed is no longer in full motion. So what does that mean for the Braden River downstream? You can deduce that, right? So hopefully my slides are just gonna run. You just hit to the right. Yeah. All right. So somebody said Michael Barclay. If I got your name wrong, you are awesome. He said, look at an aerial from the 1980s. This is 1978, and this is the Braden River. So thanks for mentioning that. And you can see that all these little black holes are wetlands, and they drain toward the river. So they're all draining toward the river. Now, when the time that this area was developed was the early 2000s, and actually that was when the most protections were in place at the federal, state, and local government for wetlands and floodplains. Okay, so the most protective of all time occurred when this area was developed, when all of Manatee County was developed to this point, pretty much, because before 1972, there really wasn't anything. But since last year, every level of government has rolled back protections for wetlands and floodplains. So federal government rolled back. State government had to roll back because the federal government did. Local government, well, we all know that they just recently rolled it back. So moving forward, how does that look if what we're developing out east are the headwaters? The headwaters are the most important for the drainage of the entire watershed, and we're protecting less of the headwater streams and wetlands. What does that mean? That means terrible things to come. If you could hit the next button. So this is what it looks like now. So why are wetlands important? I actually went to graduate school for a crap long time to be able to communicate why wetlands are important. And unfortunately, I'm losing that battle, but not just me, but all my colleagues. We're trying to figure out how can we tell people the importance of wetlands. We talk about wetland functions. So wetlands are the land area where it's wet long enough to have special plants and soils. That's your floodplains. Those are your depressions. You're not supposed to build on them because we have 2 seasons in Florida. What are our 2 seasons? Wet and dry. Okay, so what happens in the dry season is the wetland will shrink, the stream will shrink, the floodplain will shrink. In the wet season, it's going to expand. And if we cut off the boundary of where it can expand and we develop there, what's going to happen the next wet season? You're going to get wet. Like, there's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We cannot develop in the floodplain of our wetlands and our streams. But unfortunately, you can see that we very much have. And that's what they're talking about. And that was under the most strictest laws for floodplains and wetlands. And now we've rolled them all back. So we're in trouble unless we work together to put more protections on our wetlands and floodplains. Lastly, how do I communicate the importance? I tried a little bit, but people love money. So I actually went to school to try to put a dollar amount on like the value of wetlands. And that's extremely complicated as it turns out. But 2 colleagues, much smarter than I, have recently published a paper that looked at what is the value, the dollar value of wetlands in coastal Florida when it comes to mitigating the consequences of hurricanes and tropical storms. And guess how much 1 square mile of wetlands is worth for mitigating the worst effects of hurricanes and tropical storms? Just throw out numbers. It is $2 million. 1 square mile is $2 million. So that yellow square is 1 square mile. $2 million in value of just mitigating tropical storms and hurricanes. Imagine how much value we could be mitigating out east if we protect the floodplains so that they can swell during the wet times and shrink during the dry times and not be squeezed off by a road, by a sidewalk, by your yard. Imagine it. It would be great. So that's all I got. Save our wetlands to save us from flooding. Thank you so much.
I think we have probably shared a lot of knowledge here that some of you may have already known, or maybe knowledge that you're learning, but it's good to put us all on the same page. And we'll be going, hopefully, into getting into some of these a little bit deeper as you guys initiate those type of activities. Our next speaker is a former county employee, no booing, and he's been around for a while, and this is Rob Brown, and he's going to be talking to us about more issues of water.
Thanks, Carol. Yeah, my name's Rob Brown. I've been a Manatee County resident since 1980. Actually, a Mayaca resident since 1986. And I worked for Manatee County for 34 years, starting in the original pollution control department. And retired in 2022 as the vision manager for environmental management and resources. One simple picture I wanted to show you is everybody saying, hey, the development's not having an issue with our water flows. The hydrology is very simple. Top left, natural ground cover. Your farms, your pastures, your open lands, okay? What you see there, normally you're gonna have 40% evapotranspiration. Look at those black lines. You've got 25% going into the deep aquifer, which, how many's on a well out here? Okay. and 25% going to the shallow aquifer. Only 10% runoff. So most of our lands, most of our pastures, most of our open land can handle quite a bit of rainfall. You move on to, 10 to 20% impervious. Let's go all the way over to the bottom right. 75 to 100% impervious area. The impervious is roads, buildings, compacted soils, where the water can't permeate. So what do we have? We still have the evaporation, because that water's still on the surface, about 30%, but we only have 10% going to the shallow infiltration and only 5% going into the deep aquifer. But look at what we have going off, 55% runoff. So again, it's not rocket science, okay? When you develop, when you create impervious areas, we're going to get runoff. But we got to figure out how to manage that. Okay, there's really only two things I want to talk to you about. I talked to Stacy yesterday. It was, what can we do going forward? It's all doom and gloom, and what can we do? Well, the things that I tried to do numerous times when I was at the county, but the political will wasn't there to do that. One is, and you heard, the stormwater design criteria. They're ancient. We know they're ancient. They were done in the 1980s. This is a stormwater design manual that is actually on the website right now. It says it was adopted June 2015. But what happened was, prior to that, we had a contract with a consultant to revise the stormwater design criteria, to include green infrastructure, to include bioswales, to include all of these neat things that would keep flooding at bay. But we were working with Pinellas County. Simultaneously, Manatee County quit. They decided not to go forward with it because Manatee County had to implement these things as well. Now, if you look, and so what they did was take what was in our land development code, which is right underneath our comprehensive plan. They took the stormwater design criteria and put it in a design manual and put it under public works. These are the references for the design criteria. I don't see anything in this century. 1988, 1989, 1958, 1969, 1977. Those are the criteria, standards that are being used currently in the design manual. So that's one thing we need to do, is to go forward and do something. If you have a chance to look at Pinellas County's stormwater design manual, do it. It's wonderful, it's beautiful. They adopted theirs in 2017, they updated it in 2021, and they just updated it again this year. That's what these manuals are supposed to be. They're supposed to be living documents that as things change, as circumstances change, as hydrology changes, we're supposed to be updated. We're not doing it. Okay, that's one thing I tried to do. And how I know it's still in the 80s, this was probably done in 88 or 89. Under the environmental requirements, it says water quality established by the state of Florida, Florida Administrative Code 1725. That's probably 30 years ago. They're all 62 series now. But they are required to, water quality treatment should be reviewed jointly by the Manatee County Public Works and Pollution Control Department. We haven't been pollution control for over 30 years. Okay, there is no pollution control department. So again, there have not been the updates that should occur. We know how to do it. Like I said, Pinellas, we were on the same track with them. I wish we'd have kept going, but political will wasn't there to do that. Okay. The other thing I want to talk to you about of how moving forward, it's kind of something that you may not want to hear, but what you heard from Mr. Barfield was that we don't have the money to do the studies, right? They should have been done. Each basin should have been evaluated. Each basin should have a plan going forward. Where can we develop? Where do we need to preserve? Where are the wetlands? Okay? Tried it 4 times. Last time, how many were around here in 2018, 2019? A lot of people. Do you guys remember the stormwater utility workshops? Yeah? We were this close of getting it approved. But let me just read again, stormwater utility is not a tax. That's what everybody, it's a tax. Those in Mayaca, we don't pay for water and wastewater. We have septic and wells. But in town, you have sewer, you pay for water, you pay for solid waste. All of those things are utilities. Stormwater is no different. We have to have the money, or the county has to have the money to be able to do the studies, do the maintenance, and do the planning. And again, the idea is a little bit of money from everybody instead of a lot of money for a few people, especially those ones that got flooded out. Okay, that's what we need to do. And again, this study pretty much is done. It could be just brushed off and updated, but it says the purpose of the Manatee County Stormwater Management System is to regulate, operate, and manage stormwater runoff within unincorporated areas of the county, including maintaining, planning for, and constructing stormwater facilities. The county does not have a dedicated rate to provide revenues for funding stormwater management costs. Instead, the counties are funding its stormwater. We were robbing from solid waste. So your solid waste funds, we were using that for stormwater. The one stormwater plan that was done for Mill Creek, I did that in 2015. It took me 5 years to ask the board for enough money to match Water Management District to be able to do the study. Of course, 5 years just to get it, got it done in about 2 years. And again, these management plans, we need to get going on them because they take a couple years to do that. Okay? If we'd adopted this back in 2019, when it was first done, actually, the draft report was November 2020, and we know what happened in 2020, besides COVID. The board wasn't willing to do that. We could have had a couple of those studies already well underway, and a lot of the maintenance that's proposed in there could have been done. But again, without the funding source, again, it's not going to happen. So I know nobody wants to pay any more money, taxes, but like I said, it's not a whole lot of money. What you pay for is basically you pay a fee on your impervious area. If you have a house in the driveway, that's what you're paying the fee on. Okay? And it goes in the pot. The argument was big commercial facilities were having a lot of money. So, they're causing a lot of the problems. So that's, two of the things that, we need to move forward on. And it can go a long way to address the problems in the future. I'm sorry we can't go back and retrofit a lot of these things. Some of them you can. The idea, though, is that, as Abby was talking about, and happened to be a happy and dedicated board member for Suncoast Waterkeepers, we've got to protect those wetlands. We've got to protect the stream corridors. We've got to protect all those riparian stream courses, creeks, tributaries, everything. That was one of the things we're pushing for. We got to protect those. And if we can't, the developer's going to build right up next to it. And then there's nowhere to fix things. If we don't have those stream corridors, there's nowhere to fix the problem, because that's where it ends up. Final thing I want to talk about is, what can we do? Our comp plan. I was there in 1989 when we did the first comp plan. It wasn't perfect, but it was a lot better than it is now. And there are things that we can move forward to do. And one of the things that everybody's, how did that moving the FDAP happen? Okay, how did it happen? You saw the future land use map. We had that red line. For years, it was a no go. You don't go over there if we don't have the utility studies done for water, sewer, drainage. None of those were done. And in the comp plan, or in the, under 163, it requires for concurrency. Concurrency means you have to have the capacity to be able to move forward with these developments. Now, 163, if you read it today versus when probably in the late 80s, under the Growth Management Act, it was great. It was wonderful. We had development of regional impact, DRI. Lakewood Ranch is the DRI. Everybody got to look at those plans. Transportation, schools, fire, all the environment. Everybody got to look at those things. And everybody got to comment on those things. Back in 2008, we had a downturn. Governor Child's group kind of eased off on some of those standards. And then when Rick Scott got in here, pretty much demolished it. It's all gone. So 163 doesn't look like it did then. But it still has a concept of concurrence. And it says sanitary sewer, like I said, building things where we have capacity. Sanitary sewer, solid waste, drainage, and potable water are the only public facilities and services subject to concurrency requirement on a statewide basis. Okay? All right. They should have considered all of that when they approved the development outside of the FDAP. But comp plan, we can change it and make it. We can go back the other way, okay? Because it also says, however, any local government may extend concurrency requirements so that it applies to additional public facilities within its jurisdiction. So that's my recommendation, is we strengthen the concurrency requirement and say if we don't have, basically took out roads and schools, but if we don't have the public infrastructure there to support that development, you shouldn't be approving that development. Okay? Make sure it's there. So there are things we can do in the comp plan. There's these manuals, all kinds of things that we can do. So hopefully, we're heading in the right direction with the local government. What I want to remind you too is don't forget the state representatives. They're the ones that are changing 163. They're the ones that are changing, the rule that doesn't allow public citizens to challenge these permits, or they're going to charge you out the gazoo, okay? So state legislators, from the governor all the way down, we need to have a change, okay? So thank you very much and appreciate it.
Okay, some of you may have we have the petitions ready. There's some actions that you can take. And one of the most important things that you might want to do, even tonight, is, like I said, let's look at our different groups that are here. Kind of get with your neighbors. You might want to designate a team captain or whatever with that, but what we're trying to explain here is that there are ways that you could get involved. We have a petition that's going to be on a link. You'll see the link on some of your handouts. If not, it'll be shared by all of us so that you go online and sign that petition. That's just so that we have we've done petitions before, but we want to make this one have a little bit more teeth, if you will all help us do that. The other thing is that organizing within your own groups, that's why I was asking where are we from different areas, so that you know your neighbors here, and organizing within your groups. You're going to have to start watching and learning the land development process. We've gone through that a little bit with you, the cow pasture to a condominium, but start looking at those things right from the beginning. How many of you are enrolled in the neighborhood registry? Okay, there we go. Anybody else familiar with the neighborhood registry? Okay, so the neighborhood registry, you could go on to the county website, go in your search bar, neighborhood registry. If you sign up for the neighborhood registry, okay, follow me on this because this gets, it's not simple. So you sign up to the neighborhood registry, which then sends you an email, which then gives you access to the project list. Okay, anybody know what the project list is? Right, it's applications for rezoning, privately initiated text amendments, publicly initiated text amendments. Okay, and that's where you gotta start, right there. Now that's things that maybe you won't see a shovel go in the ground for 2 or 3 years from now, because it could be a long, drawn-out process. But you gotta start right from there. And you've gotta follow that every step of the way. And it is a long process. And maybe what we're trying to do here is make sure everybody knows your neighbor, knows what your neighbor's intentions are with their private property rights, know what your zoning means, and whenever anything is gonna happen in your neighborhood, follow that process all the way through. Make your case manager your next best friend. And it's a long process. It takes a long time for a cow pasture to become a cow field, and a condominium, and it takes a while until that condominium floods your property, if it's not done right. So, we are gonna need some help getting our chairs back, and we were gonna challenge y'all by district or by subdivision. I don't know. But definitely, let me let Stacy close a little bit, because I want to give her to give you the information that's going to be on with East Manatee Preservation.
I'm really here to say thank you. Thank you for being here. There is a woman in a pink shirt in the back named Michelle, who's holding up that wall. Please give her a round of applause. Michelle is the one that made this possible. This was her idea. Thank you to Carol Felt, to Sarah Evancho, to Chris Whitaker, to Dalton, to all of the speakers, to the people in this community who have cared about what's going on, who have shown up for each other. I see so many community leaders and activists that I recognize. I see Bruce, I see Jen, I see Glenn. Kevin Wright is here, making sure that people who aren't here can get this information. I saw Joe here. I see so many community leaders that are out here. I see Norma with the PCA. Thank you. There's so many resources here. And just to wrap up, right, what do we want to come of this? We want the county to understand what the issues are, update the maps, do the studies so that we know what's going on, and then fix it. And stop developing in the flooded areas until we know what the situation is. So that petition right there, we're asking the county to stop approving new development permits, new development site plans in the flooding areas. Please sign that. And don't forget, Tuesday on Zoom is the Pope Ranch neighborhood meeting. This is your first opportunity to fight it, just like those people fought Home Depot. You can say no to Pope Ranch now before it even gets to the county commission. Thank you for being here. Have a great night.